They've been planning this trip since they married 6 months ago.
I met Brandy in 7th grade, and she moved away to another high school, and then we reunited in college and began to date.
Can I get 2 orange juices?
He was very adventurous, very independent. I think what attracted me to him was the adventurous side of him, that he kind of took me out of my box a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
We had basically sold everything that we had owned and moved on to just travel. I think what was attractive most to us was the fact of the unknown, the fact that we could just pack our bare essentials and X amount of money and see what happens.
Their adventure starts with a 100-mile flight to a small town on the edge of the Corcovado National Park.
Have fun, guys.
Bye.
But getting there means a 30-minute journey on a small aircraft, something Brandy is dreading.
See, it's not so bad, is it?
I guess not. Flying was something that I did not like to do. I remember it being a little scary because it was just a little puddle jumper. It wasn't tall enough for you to stand up straight. It was really small. It was really small.
No, let's sit in the front row. Come on, it'd be really cool. We can sit at the cockpit.
No, let's just sit 1 seat behind.
Brandon said, "Hey, babe, let's go sit in the front row." I think because of my fear, I said, "No, let's just sit 1 seat behind." So we sat in the 2nd row.
There are 6 passengers on today's flight.
Guys?
Last to board is American expat Michael Packard, who lives in Costa Rica and regularly takes this trip.
How you doing?
Hey, I'm Michael.
Brandon.
Brandon?
Nice to meet you.
Brandy? I've done the flight so many times that I was just looking forward to reading my book and getting back to town.
For me, taking off is scary.
Hey, it's gonna be okay, baby.
So I remember just concentrating on being still and just being calm and breathing.
Costa Rica is a small country that is both densely forested and very mountainous. If visibility is poor, low-level flying can be extremely dangerous. And clouds are gathering.
When I look out of the window and I see clouds, that's a little frightening to me.
It's gonna be fine, okay?
I don't particularly like flying up there because it is a rough ride sometimes. They are small planes.
But on this flight, Michael sees something out of the ordinary.
I noticed the two pilots conferring with each other, looking a little concerned. And I realized what they were doing was looking at coordinates in these books, trying to pinpoint their position because they weren't sure where they were.
plane has basic navigation equipment on board, but the pilots are relying on charts and maps to reach their destination. But now they're flying in dense cloud and almost zero visibility. They're unaware that they're already off course and heading for a mountain.
These clouds are getting very dark.
It's fine.
Brandy said, "Look how thick these clouds are." And so I looked outside of our window, and it got darker and darker.
Oh my God!
It's horrifying. That was my ultimate fear coming true.
What goes through your head is the fact that you're not gonna live through this.
You're headed for the mountain. You're headed for the mountain to die.
I remember thinking, we're not flying anymore. We're going through the trees. Is this even happening?
My stomach dropped. My mind just went blank.
To hear things break apart, just the sound that it makes is unbelievable.
My first thought was, you're not getting out of this.
I wake up and it's freezing cold, and my entire body was soaked in jet fuel. I was in a plane on vacation, and now I'm in a black hole that I can't move my legs, and it's blood just everywhere. Brandy was head to toe blood. And I remember thinking, oh my God. Brandy! 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 Wake up! Can you hear me? Brandy! Wake up, Brandy! Brandy, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
My first memory was Brandon talking to me.
Brandy, listen to me. You gotta get out of here. We're covered in jet fuel.
Oh my God!
Get your belt, your seatbelt. Let's go.
I remember feeling completely panicked and completely in disarray.
Hurry, go! Get away from the plane!
Outside the plane, Brandy is horrified by the devastation of the wreckage and the bodies of the two pilots.
Trees were knocked down. There was a mess of plane parts, wires. There's smoke everywhere. There's people wandering around. There's people that are dead. How could this have happened? How could the pilots have let this happen?
German Silke Freebold and Costa Rican Alvaro Zuniga have also survived the crash. But the danger is far from over. Leaking fuel is soaking the wreckage, and Brandon is trapped inside.
Brandy!
I just remember having something on my legs.
Brandon is pinned under the body of a dead passenger. Costa Rican Adolfo Strasburger.
Hurry up, Brandon!
Go! Get away from the plane! Get away from the plane!
Quick!
Get away from the plane!
The survivors need to get a safe distance from leaking fuel. But in severe pain from extensive burns, Alvaro is unable to move.
Come on, we gotta get away from the plane!
Now able to take in the extent of the wreckage, Brandon and Brandy realize just how lucky they are to be alive.
The wings were ripped off and the fuselage was turned upside down, and from the seat in front of us, the plane was completely dismantled.
Hey, let's sit in the front.
Oh, let's just sit one seat behind.
By total chance, Brandy's request that they sit in the second row has saved their lives.
I just remember thinking, there's no reason and no way that we should be alive right now. If anyone were to be sitting in that front row, they would have been killed. We should have died. No rhyme or reason about it. It wasn't our time.
Baby.
Brandon is bloodied and battered. As a trained nurse, Brandy instinctively takes action.
My wife went to school to be a nurse. It was just intuitive that she had known what to do.
He had broken all the bones around his eye, and his face was swollen.
He also has deep cuts on his arms that are bleeding heavily.
Okay, it's okay, sorry.
Silke is relatively unhurt, but appears traumatized by the death of her friend Adolfo.
It's okay, sweetie. I'm a nurse, all right? What's your name? Silke.
Silke was not in a good place. She was psychologically pretty messed up. I mean, she had been conscious the whole plane crash.
I saw the whole thing.
I was really worried about her mentally.
Suddenly, Brandon remembers there had been 6 passengers on the flight. 1 is dead in the plane, and 4 have survived. So someone is missing.
I'm Michael. Brandon. Where's Michael?
The next thing that I remember is that I woke up on my back, looking up at the sky and the trees. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I was just in a plane crash. And I'm alive. I remember just thinking about where I was, about where the plane was, because I didn't see anything around me except for trees.
The sheer violence of the crash has thrown Michael Packard's body some 200 feet from the plane. Adrenaline floods through him. He's unaware of just how seriously he's injured.
I was in shock, so I really didn't feel the pain yet.
Michael has a severed Achilles tendon and a crushed eye socket. He has 4 cracked ribs and a punctured lung. It's a miracle he's alive. But he'll need an even greater miracle to survive.
All of a sudden, I heard voices. And I started to make my way towards the voices the best that I could.
He's here. Michael. We got you, man. It's okay.
I'm just happy there was somebody else to go through that with. Because I knew it was going to be tough.
Michael, I'm a nurse.
Put your weight on me. It's okay.
All right, Michael, look at me. Okay, I'm a nurse. I'm just gonna check you.
Brandy instantly recognizes that Michael is in serious trouble.
He didn't look right. He was pale, really dehydrated. His eye was sunken in. He worried me the most.
Brandy is concerned that he may have internal bleeding, which, untreated, could kill him within hours. But imminent rescue is unlikely. They've crashed miles off their original course and are totally lost in Costa Rica's 10,000 square miles of impenetrable rainforest. And with both Michael and Alvaro seriously injured, the clock is ticking.
Okay, really hard.
In the cold light of dawn, Brandon and Brandy know that time is running out. Michael has made it through the night, but his body is increasingly starved of oxygen. His breathing is shallow, and he looks like he's dying.
You're good, buddy. Hang in there, Michael. Okay?
I think we would have lost him in another day.
It was like, how are we going to get through this day? It was a paralyzing feeling of what to do next.
They've been missing for 18 hours. They've crashed in remote jungle, and there's no sign of help.
We had given up hope for rescue. We thought if we're gonna stay alive, it's gonna be because of us.
Okay.
We can't sit here any longer. So we're on a mountain. There's a valley below. Why don't we go down there, see if we can find a river to follow?
By leaving, they risk getting lost, with no guarantee of finding their way back. But they must take action. If they do nothing, Brandon knows Michael will not survive the day.
To be forced to come up with the answers that are going to make you survive or not is something that I wouldn't probably wish on anyone.
I think we should go. We all need help pretty bad. I can just stay here and watch us die.
We had no other choice. We had to do something. You have to take that risk, or else you're all gonna be dead.
Michael, we're gonna go out, okay? See what we can find.
Michael fears that if they're left behind, he and Alvaro will die.
He kept saying, "Don't leave us. Please don't leave us."
I didn't want to be left alone because I thought if they got lost, they wouldn't be able to find their way back.
I felt bad leaving them. But I also knew there was nothing more we could do for Michael or Alvaro. And there was no good in us just sitting there looking at each other and not doing anything.
It could have worked out. It could have been completely catastrophic.
I remember when they left, I had this lonely, empty feeling.
The others have set off in search of rescue, leaving Michael and Alvaro helpless and alone.
I was incapable of taking care of myself, and Alvaro was also incapable of taking care of himself.
Within minutes of leaving the crash site, the three realize the difficulty of the task ahead of them. Injured, dehydrated and hungry, they're wandering directionless in one of the toughest environments on the planet.
You're getting hot, you're getting sweaty, you're getting aggravated because you haven't slept all night and you're hurt and you can't walk. I'm okay. So not only were we falling down, but there were thorns in the side of bushes that were 2.5, 3 inches thick.
After an hour of forcing their way through the impossibly thick jungle, the group can go no further. It's becoming clear that they have made a terrible mistake.
It's a pretty devastating feeling when you know you've made the wrong decision and there's nothing you can do about it.
They've become totally lost. They can't go forward, and they don't know their way back.
I knew that we were in dire straits. This is gonna end up how it ends up. Period. There's nothing we can do at this point. There's nothing we can do to help ourselves. There's nothing we can do to help anyone else involved here. I was terrified that we were done.
The survivors lived through a terrible plane crash. But lost, alone and defenseless, it's the unforgiving jungle that will kill them.
I had lost all hope. We were all injured, we were all exhausted, we didn't know where we were going. There was no hope left.
At the crash site, Alvaro, immobilized by his burns, can only look on as Michael barely clings to life. His collapsed lung makes it agonizing to breathe. His blood pressure has plunged, and this could trigger a fatal cardiac arrest.
It was miserable. I was definitely on a downward spiral. If I didn't get rescued soon, I could only last so long in this condition.
Michael has lost all hope of rescue and resigns himself to death in the jungle.
I heard voices yelling. And all of a sudden, this man appears out of the jungle.
Are you all right? Over here! Over here! You're safe now.
An army of Red Cross volunteers has been combing the area for 24 hours and has finally found the crash site.
I just started crying, and it was the most emotional period. I couldn't believe it.
What was that?
For the others, believing they're lost forever, a miraculous stroke of luck saves their lives.
Just like in Indiana Jones, the guy comes through the fields and he has a machete and a backpack.
Against all odds, a local farmer and member of the search team literally stumbles upon them.
It was the most incredible feeling I've ever had. It was just pure joy.
It was complete elation. I remember sitting down and thinking, this is unbelievable.
Rescued from the Costa Rican jungle, Silke, Alvaro, and Michael made a full recovery.
I think it was just luck that I survived. I have a beautiful family. I have 2 beautiful sons. When things get tough, hey, you're just lucky you're here.
Brandon and Brandy's injuries healed, and they returned to America. They're still happily married and have 2 young children.
You can't go through something like that and not be closer. I was with my husband. He was my family, and he was right next to me, taking care of me.
I am definitely happy to be here. I'm happy to have a second chance. And I'm happy to have my wife and 2 beautiful little kids that remind me every day of the reason that I'm probably here.
David Whittlesey is about to head off on an epic journey down the Colorado River.
As early as I can remember, I was off in a little boat rowing around on water. I've discovered that I really, really enjoyed that kind of activity and the beauty and the solitude of the great outdoors.
Well, it looks like I'm going to be the only one on the river. We might as well pull up over there and start unloading.
David has been on a waiting list for a permit for 2 years. But when another raft trip is suddenly cancelled, it opens up the window he's been waiting so long for.
I was living a life of a bachelor and had no particular personal ties that would inhibit me from doing a trip like this.
But while David craves the solitude, the permit has also come in winter, a time when few others dare to take on the river. And this will be his first ever solo journey.
I didn't really intend to do a solo trip per se, but I didn't want to not take advantage of the fact that I had a river permit. It was an opportunity for me to use some of my skills in terms of building my rafting frame and figuring out how to package my particular boat. I would guess it weighed close to 2,000 pounds with all the gear I had on it.
Despite David's careful preparation, he's still apprehensive about going it alone.
I do remember when I first shoved off from Lee's Ferry, I really was quite nervous at the time. My primary trepidation had to do with the fact that I was going to be by myself entirely. As far as cell phones, you might as well forget those. They don't even work in the Grand Canyon.
With no means of communication if he gets into trouble, David's only backup is for his friend to raise the alarm should he fail to return as planned.
My parting words were,
Hey, if I'm not at Pierce Ferry when you get there, call for help, because it means something went wrong.
David's journey down the Colorado River takes him through the remotest part of the canyon, hundreds of miles from civilization. The journey of nearly 300 miles goes without a hitch, and he soon forgets his earlier apprehension.
I navigated almost the whole trip. Basically, all I had to do was continue on and successfully arrive at my destination.
The trip has tested all of David's rafting skills, and he's had the desolate beauty of the Grand Canyon all to himself.
There is no place quite like the Grand Canyon. You're a mile below the normal surface that we walk around on, and there's rocks exposed that are millions of years old. I mean, the beauty of it is just, it's very difficult to put into words.
As one of the few people willing to brave the freezing winter conditions, he's found the extreme solitude he was looking for.
The silence is unbelievable. I just find it, you know, the solitude down there is just entire, complete. You're on a 280-mile voyage that is totally isolated from the rest of the world as we know it. Once you're there, you're on your own.
David also knows his epic solo journey into the wilderness will be a life-changing one.
Almost everybody that goes down there comes back with a different outlook on at least one aspect of their life.
David has just 3 days left of his month-long trip through the canyon.
At that point, I'd done 100 and some rapids successfully without flipping or finding myself thrown out of the boat.
But now, he must face the one part of the trip he's been dreading. The most dangerous rapids on the entire river. Lava Falls.
You can hear lava falls long before you get to it. The tension kind of builds the closer you get to it and the noisier it gets. The general practice is that you get out and you scout the rapid before you go through it so you can sort of pick out where the major obstacles are.
Every set of rapids on the river has been rated for difficulty.
In the Grand Canyon, they have a rating system based on 1 to 10.
Lava Falls is a 10.
It's the true measure of a boatman. Even though I'd navigated all these previous rapids without use of my wetsuit, I was scared enough of the potential calamitous nature of lava falls that I put my wetsuit on. Above the rapid, there's typically a pool, so the water's really, really slow. And then all of a sudden, your velocity increases dramatically. The sense of acceleration can be disorienting in and of itself. Lava Falls has an actual waterfall, a 14-foot drop. I was terrified. It is readily avoidable if you know what you're doing and pick the right course.
But David is now completely out of control.
I can remember very vividly my boat turning vertical and nosing straight down the falls. I was slammed forward into my ice chest. boat, for reasons which I still cannot figure out today, bounced back upwards, even though my boat by then was entirely filled with water. It was upright, and I was still in it, and we were still floating. I was thrilled. I figured I was home free. I remember thinking, you're done, you've made it. You've successfully navigated all 100 and some rapids in the Grand Canyon, and you're only 50 miles or so away from the end of the trip, and it's basically all flat water.
With lava falls behind him, David removes his life jacket and wetsuit. But he's forgotten there are still several rapids ahead.
My first recollection that I was in any danger was when I found myself floating directly into these rocks. They're sharp pointed and they look like teeth in a dog's mouth. And I was sideways to the current at the time. I knew that was something I really did not want to allow to happen. I did take a powerful stroke with my upstream oar in an attempt to pivot the boat around the rocks. I can't believe this is actually happening. I first thought that my boat will be fine and then it'll pivot itself around and float off of this thing.
But the current has pinned the raft tightly against the rock.
And before I know it, the boat shot up in the air. I was just totally stunned. How can the river be that powerful to shoot this 2,000-pound raft up in the air? I remember, looking down at the water and going, uh-oh, we're in big trouble now. I came up underneath the boat. My head was out of water and I was breathing.
The water is barely 40 degrees, and David knows he must get out fast or he'll freeze to death.
I was concerned that I would become entangled in the raft. I'm wet and I'm cold and I'm with an upside-down raft.
With his raft now useless, he has no way out of the canyon. His only option is to turn it back upright. But with the raft weighing 2,000 pounds, that's going to take all his ingenuity.
I wasn't going to be able to just get underneath the raft and push it up and over. I realized that the only way of righting the raft was going to be to use a pulley rope configuration.
But to rig the pulley, he's going to have to go under his raft to retrieve the equipment. Into the sub-zero waters of the river.
It's dark under there, you can't see anything. I'm basically working by, blind feel. I have a picture in my head where things ought to be, which doesn't mean that they are because everything's topsy-turvy and turned upside down. And I have to force myself to get in and out of the river to get this stuff. I needed pulleys and carabiners and webbing and rock climbing anchors.
With each trip under the raft, David's core body temperature plummets, and he must battle the extreme effects of hypothermia.
We don't often have experiences of prolonged cold. And that's what I was dealing with. Your blood thickens when it's cold, so, there's less oxygen being provided to your muscles, there's less oxygen being provided to your brain. You don't think as clearly or as sharply. And I was aware of that process occurring to me.
It takes David more than an hour to rescue the necessary gear. By the time he's done, he can barely move. But now he must figure out how to rig the complex pulley system.
I was very cold, and my thinking processes had slowed down, but the time it actually took was considerable.
David knows that if he can't haul the 2,000-pound raft upright, he'll be stranded.
I didn't even get it close to upright. One of the anchors let loose, came zinging by my head.
All of David's efforts have been in vain. His only option now is to find a way to lighten the load.
I could look downriver and see that there was a sort of sandy alcove a little bit downstream that I figured if I could get the boat over to, then I would have a large enough area to unload the rest of the gear.
But it's impossible to drag the boat along the steep shoreline. Cold and desperate, David decides to take a massive gamble.
Realizing that I was not going to be able to wade along the shore and pull the boat down with me to this alcove, I got on the boat. I remember standing up on this upside-down raft with one oar, trying to navigate downriver to get to this sandy alcove, sort of like a Venetian gondolier with his one oar navigating the canals.
But the river is so powerful, it's impossible to steer.
I tend to turn more than the raft when I try and turn the oar.
Swept past the safety of the alcove, he's now hurtling towards the next set of rapids, with no way of navigating his way through it.
There's literally nothing to hang on to. There are no handholds, no tow holds, nothing.
Desperately fighting for breath in the icy river, David's got to hold on to his raft or risk drowning.
And I managed to grab the lifeline around the boat.
But the powerful current drags him and the raft into huge underwater rocks.
It floated up onto the rocks and dragged me over the rocks with the boat.
David is faced with a desperate decision. If he keeps hold of his boat, he'll be smashed into the rocks. If he lets go, he'll lose everything.
My thinking was, if I don't get out of this river, it's going to kill you. So there I am, standing up on this outcropping, watching my boat float away and calling after it, hoping it would come back to me like I was calling after a dog.
Come on!
I was frightened. I kept hoping that by some bizarre circumstance it would eddy out someplace where I would be able to get to it. And once it disappeared from view, I just go, you know, good God, what am I into now? I realized I was in a pretty serious predicament. There's not even a spot to sit comfortably, much less do anything else. I started, seriously considering what my options were. Do you want to try and hike out of the canyon? Just what are your options?
Trapped at the bottom of steep cliffs, David can see no option but to try to scale the sheer rock wall to safety. It's painfully slow progress. After an hour, he's still only 30 feet above the river.
I'm traversing these rock faces using my toes on little cracks in the rock and using as much caution as I possibly could conceive of, due to the fact that I was alone and, you know, any falls would be catastrophic.
But the higher he climbs, the more unstable the rock face becomes.
This dislodged rock decided to roll down onto my foot. It resulted in breaking a couple of toes as this rock landed on my foot. There wasn't anything I could do about it at the time.
Climbing upwards is agony, but the cliff face is too steep to descend. So he has no option but to keep going.
I grab onto a rock. I'm using it as a handhold to work my way around sort of an outcropping, and the rock comes off in my hand. And then I sort of teetered there for a few seconds, minutes, hours, days, lifetimes, who knows. I lost my balance and fell over completely backwards, sliding head first on my back across this rock face, thinking, you're dead, this is it. My life jacket caught on something. It flipped me completely over in a backward somersault. I hit my chin on something hard enough to break 4 teeth, knocked myself entirely unconscious. I found myself in the Colorado River coming up out of the water, spitting teeth out of my mouth. I could see another sandy spot further downstream from me. I'd say a half a mile down from where I was. I knew that just getting myself into this alcove that I could see was going to be a challenge. And I'm probably a good 30 feet above the river, and lo and behold, right in front of my face is a can of beer.
The beer can is the first sign of life he's seen in over 20 days. But he quickly realizes it must have been washed up in floods years earlier.
This beer has been there long enough that the label is just about entirely faded off of it.
Having lost all of his supplies, David knows it could provide a valuable source of energy. After 4 days fighting to stay alive, it seems a search party has finally come looking for him.
I jumped up and down and waved my arms.
Help! Hey!
You're looking at this plane, and you can clearly see it.
Hey!
I'm wearing a bright red life vest.
Here!
It's just inconceivable that they can't see you.
Hey!
But as the plane banks away, David realizes he's invisible from the air.
Hey! Come back! Come back!
His only hope of rescue
Come back!
has gone. As he prepares for a fourth night, David knows he's in desperate trouble.
I was getting to be pretty depressed. And I realized that, something had not happened the way it was supposed to.
If I'm not at Pierce Ferry when you get there, call for help, because it means something went wrong.
David is unaware that his friend has assumed he's just extended his trip. No one is even out looking for him.
I was aware of the fact that I was in dire predicament, and the longer it went on, the more frightening it became.
With no hope of rescue, David is at the mercy of the hostile canyon and totally alone. For 4 days, David has clung to the hope that his friend will raise the alarm. But he now realizes that no one is looking for him.
The mental battle was probably harder than the physical battle, keeping myself from allowing myself to believe that I was really going to die right then and there.
David is determined to dig deep.
I'm laying there doing nothing, and you can't just sit here and do nothing. You got to try something. I wasn't going to give up and say to hell with it.
But by now, his physical condition has deteriorated so far, he can barely stand.
My feet by then were just totally trashed, and it was very difficult for me to walk anywhere at all.
Despite the pain, he decides his only hope is to make himself more visible from the air by building a large distress signal. But that means shifting hundreds of rocks from the water's edge.
All of the rocks were down in this drainage, so I'd have to, go down there and grab up 1 or 2 rocks or whatever I felt that I could carry, and then drag them back up on this hillside.
It's an agonizingly slow and painful process.
I built a rock X that was probably 10 feet long, each arm of it. So, that's a lot of trips up and down, a lot of rocks to carry.
It's late afternoon by the time he's done, and he's utterly exhausted. It's 3 days since he last ate anything. He's now so weak, he's desperate for energy.
As every barfly knows, there's a sandwich worth of calories in every can of beer. I definitely advise against drinking 8-year-old beer. definitely not one of the tastiest beverages I've ever imbibed.
Despite his exhaustion and hunger, he can't afford to rest. The temperature is dropping fast, and he's running out of firewood.
I started gathering the stuff that was closest to where I was, and then every day I'd get a little bit further away, so I'd have to spend more time gathering it up and getting it there. Obviously, you're becoming weaker and weaker all the time, and it becomes more difficult to do the things that you did the day before. As I was doing that, there's this little tiny lizard. It was probably, maybe 4 inches long, kind of scooted out across a rock. For some amazing reason, I was able to be quick enough to actually swat it. I kind of broke it in half and swallowed it down. I was hungry enough by that point in time, too, that I could eat anything. I was feeling that since I have no idea how long I'm going to have to do this, any nutrition I can get whatsoever is going to be better than none. You served a good cause.
David's ingenuity and determination have helped him survive for 6 days, injured and alone in the Grand Canyon. He expected to be rescued days ago, but now the hostile winter conditions have taken a terrible toll on his body, and he's beginning to lose his mind.
I had all kinds of wild fantasies occurring, The world had been devastated by nuclear explosions, and I was probably the only human left on the planet. Particular incidents or scenes out of my past history would come to the surface of my consciousness.
Hey!
I remember pretty vividly thinking about and remembering events that I had shared with various different friends and so forth, and thinking about them and being sad that, I might not see them again.
Now too weak to gather wood or maintain his fire, David's core body temperature is dropping rapidly. He's losing his battle with hypothermia. David Whittlesey came to the Grand Canyon to experience peace and solitude. But stranded and at the mercy of the elements, he faces freezing to death, alone.
By Saturday morning, I was pretty down. I was, really depressed. I wrote a farewell note to my family and friends and carved it into a little piece of driftwood. I marked down the number of days that I thought I'd survive there. It was important to me to let my friends and family know that I was thinking of them and that my death had been accidental.
After 7 days fighting to stay alive, David has nothing left. All he can do is lie down and wait for death.
I had done everything that I could think of to ensure that I would survive, and it seemed like, nobody cared. My first inkling that something was happening was the noise of the helicopter. Fairly rapidly increased in volume and noise. When the helicopter came around the corner, I was stood up and I was waving my arms and jumping up and down and crying and laughing. And there was a great sense of relief. And I've never experienced so many emotions all at one time as I did right then. I was laughing because I was so happy to have survived the whole ordeal, and I was crying because I was so grateful for having survived the whole ordeal. It really was an upwelling of emotions that was totally beyond my normal range of experience.
Having discovered David's capsized raft 20 miles downstream, the park authorities had launched a search and rescue mission.
They were amazed to find me still alive. They told me that they were sure they were looking for a body. The pilot had a sandwich that his wife had made for him. It was probably one of the best sandwiches I've ever had in my life.
Seven days after his accident, David was finally airlifted to safety. He went on to make a full recovery and is still passionate about rafting.
I never did believe it was my time to die. I do believe that you can enhance your chances of surviving by believing that you are going to survive. My life has changed significantly because of this incident. In some deep spiritual sense, that I have a more positive outlook, and I also think I have a better grasp on what it means to be alive.